welcome to the WanderLearn Show. I'm your host, Francis Tapon. I'm here with Derek Sivers, who's the author of this brand new book, Useful But Not True. But he's actually written several other books, but this is the one we'll talk about a little bit about today. But in true WanderLearn fashion, we'll wander all over all sorts of different topics. So welcome, Derek.
Thanks. And audience, I am a huge fan of Francis. I'm the one that reached out to him after I read his book, and I went, dude, that was brilliant. That's amazing. And so that's how we know each other, is because I reached out to him as a fan.
I really appreciate that. That touched me a lot. That was amazing. So your book, though, this new one that you've written, I think it rang so true to me because of the fact that when you travel, you kind of learn that a lot of things are useful, but not true. Explain what you mean by that. I know what you mean by that, but why don't you help other people catch up to you?
Sure. Well, first, we have to clarify that word true, because that could mean different things to different people. So I could over and over again say, not necessarily objectively, empirically true for everyone, everywhere, always, but that would be too verbose. So instead, on the first page of the book, I said, all right, please understand, for the rest of this book, when I say the word true, what I mean is observably, empirically, absolutely, necessarily true for everyone, everywhere, always. The reason it's important to make that distinction is because in your life, you're going to hear people say things like, Francis, you can't do that. But that's not necessarily objectively, empirically true for everyone, everywhere, always. It's just one way of looking at the situation. And then even in your own head, when you tell yourself something like, oh man, I'm screwed, or this situation sucks, well, that's also not necessarily objectively, empirically, absolutely true. So it's really important to notice that most of what people call true are just one way of looking at it. So that's the explanation for the title. You can see now when it says useful, not true, it means that all of these beliefs we hold and the way that we see the world, it's useful to us, but it's not necessarily true.
Right. Any kind of surprising reactions people have had to that? I mean, it's such a, in some ways, simple argument, but very, very profound at the same time. And for some people, I imagine they very much resist it. You're like, no, Derek, this is just true. It's the way it is. You know, Jesus Christ is the Savior, or whatever. It could be any
Great
kind
example.
of topic, right? Or the fact that it's right or wrong to bomb Iran, or all sorts of things that people take very strong issues with, and they just think it's objectively true. How do you deal with those kind of people who struggle to understand what you're trying to say?
I said it the best I could. I tell some little tales and make some little metaphors. Like, for example, you are in Vietnam right now, right? I'm in New Zealand. So if I were to ask you, hey, Francis, what time is it? You'll tell me it's 7 a.m. I'll say, no, it's not. It's 12. And if you say it's summer, I'll say, no, it's not. It's winter. It's not that you're wrong. It's just that the truth you're describing is true for you. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's true for everyone else. And that's what traveling teaches us, isn't it?
Absolutely. Tell us about a lesson that you learned from that. One of the things that was pretty poignant is when you got into an accident when you were young, I think around 18 years old. And then for years, you harbored this idea that you ruined somebody's life because you gave them they were paraplegic. You made them into a paraplegic. And one day you somehow tracked them down, and then you met her, and then she told you what?
That it was a misunderstanding. That yes, she broke her vertebrae. So I heard that she broke her back, and the person that communicated it to me told me she'll never walk again. But it turns out that no, she broke a vertebrae and she's fine. So she thought that the accident was her fault. I always assumed the accident was my fault. We both assumed that accident that day, 18 years earlier, was our fault. And that makes me think about how many other things in life do we hold as a true story, such as, I was bullied as a child, my parents neglected me, that relationship of mine was abusive. How many of these sob stories aren't necessarily true, that we latched on to one side of the story that wasn't based on complete information, and we hold it as a true fact? But it's powerful to realize that even these stories that you've held as fact for decades might also not be true, and it might be a good time to let go of them.
Right. And the real mindfuck that you have in your book is that you can say, well, you can actually turn this into a powerful tool, because all of a sudden, just as you told yourself a certain story, there's no reason you can't just flip that story and turn something that is you're the victim as all of a sudden you're empowered.
Yeah. So let's pick a real one that my sister got upset about last night. Is I was talking to my sister and I said, I'm in the last quarter of my life. And she instantly got upset at me saying that. And I said, well, look, just statistically, it's very likely I'm in the last quarter. And she made me, she negotiated me down to a third. She made me admit that, okay, statistically a third. But I said, look, the point isn't the fact of when I'm going to die. The point is that assuming I'm in the final quarter gives me a wonderful sense of urgency that helps me stop procrastinating. It helps me narrow down my plans. It helps me let go of some things like triage that I'm probably never going to learn to play drums, for example. I'll just let that one go. It's fine. It would be nice, but it's like 30th priority.
And focusing on your child as well, your son.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So this is a belief that works for me, that I'm in the final quarter of my life. It doesn't matter whether or not it's true. There's no point arguing whether it's true or not, because that's a prediction of the future. I might live twice as long as I am right now. I might still be in the first half of my life for all I know. But it's a beautiful assumption. That belief works for me. So my advice to anyone listening to this or anyone who reads my book is to notice in yourself which beliefs work for you, meaning what helps you be who you want to be, do what you want to do, or just feel at peace. That's my definition of useful, by the way. I already defined true, so there's my definition of useful. Whatever helps you, do what you need to do, be who you want to be, or feel at peace. So if holding a belief that is even deliberately fictional works for you, then use it.
It's also a powerful tool in working on your empathy. One of the things I've been working on in my own life is trying to become more empathic. I think is one of my weaknesses. And this book really kind of focuses you and trying to teach you to turn the perspective and look at other truths that people have out there. And I think that can be useful also in geopolitics and analyzing the world and looking at Republicans versus Democrats, their team, your team, and all sorts of stuff. You can all of a sudden have more empathy, whether it's on a kind of a bigger scale like that or a micro scale where, just getting along with your spouse or your girlfriend, boyfriend.
Yeah. That is the reason I turned to your book. What was the official title? Hidden Europe?
Yeah, The Hidden Europe. Yeah, The Hidden Europe.
The Hidden Europe book. The reason I read that, I hadn't heard of it from anybody. I just went browsing to go find a book about that because I wanted to understand the point of view of these countries I had never been to. I wanted to understand the Slovakian point of view, the Hungarian point of view. And your book did that so well. You told your stories of the people you met and what they told you, how they see the world. They shared their worldview with you, and then you shared it in the book. And I love that. So I think you've been practicing empathy for decades.
Well, thank you. I had never realized that, but you're right. In that sense, I am. I guess I want to work out on a more holistic sense and on every single level. But thank you. I appreciate that compliment. One thing I heard on the Tim Ferriss show, you talked about you have you're building a house that has no bathroom. It's like, can you describe that and what's the stage? Or give us an update of where that is in the middle of 2025.
You know, it's funny. You never know what people are going to find interesting. I mentioned that as an offhand remark, and it's funny how many people ask me about that. I don't think it's that interesting.
It is unusual. Come on, Derek. You got to admit
okay,
it's
but look, what I'm doing is based on a book called How Buildings Learn by Stuart Brand, which I read decades ago, and it's my most gifted, most recommended book. I love this book so much. If you find it, please buy the actual paper version, because the Kindle version is not sufficient. It is filled with photos of buildings that you have to get the photo. So get the paper book called How Buildings Learn by Stuart Brand. And in it, he gives some beautiful philosophies of building from the point of view of a non-architect, but looking at the subject of buildings, like the simpler the better, because what we want to do is change buildings to adapt to our needs. We don't want to have to adapt ourselves to the building. That's the problem with award-winning architectural genius buildings, is that we have to adapt ourselves to this damn award-winning building that we can't touch because it's won awards. But he said the buildings that people are happiest with are simple buildings that they can adapt to their own needs. So he also said that buildings tend to rot from the bathroom out, that it's water that ultimately destroys any building. So I started simple. I got a 4x8 meter rectangle of a well-insulated just cube. And I decided to put the bathroom and shower outside. So there's no water inside the building. Bathroom and shower is separate, like outhouse and shower, bathhouse outside. And I'm just starting to live there a little bit with nothing in it, and then just deciding as I go what's needed.
Kind of reminds me of Steve Jobs when he was struggling to find what that one lamp. He only had one lamp. You know what I'm talking about, I think.
Yep. It's like that.
Well, that wraps up part 1 of 3 with Derek Sivers. Make sure you get his book. It's down in the description below. It's a fascinating, fun little book. And you should check out also the videos around here. You'll see links to them. And also subscribe to the show. Make sure that you click on the bell notification so that you get notified when part 2 and part 3 of my episodes with Derek come out. This is Francis Tapon, encouraging you to wander and learn and get his book.